Have you ever had the experience where there's a girl you like, you've been on a few dates with her, you may have hooked up a couple of times, you personally don't want a relationship, you don't want anything serious, you thought she was on board with it, but when you go out and actually tell her, or when she finds out, she starts pushing for a relationship and you resist, she runs away and runs for the hills. Or she, even worse, she acts like you're an a-hole for leading her on when you haven't been intending to do that at all. Now, obviously, there are plenty of women in the world who don't want anything casual, but there's far more women than you expect who are open to it. The difficulty is men go about ensuring or telling women that they don't want a long-term relationship in the wrong way. And so there's a big difference in the results you get depending on how and when you decide to tell her. So today I'm going to be talking about this. If this has been a frustration or yours, you're definitely going to want us to keep watching. Okay, first of all, let's say this. Yes, you're going to need to tell women that you don't want a long-term relationship. Not just because it's the nice and decent thing to do, but more because one of the things that can really degrade a guy's self-esteem is women looking at him like he's misled them, like he's deceived them, like he has hurt them. Every time a guy experiences that with a woman, his self-esteem takes a battering. So you don't want to have that experience. And so for that reason, you need to make clear what you're looking for. The big mistake that a lot of guys make is in the when. See, what a lot of guys do is they think of women, there's kind of this picture of this skittish little lamb. And if they make a move too quickly, the little lamb's going to go bah! And run away. I hope the woman doesn't actually make that noise, but you get what I mean, right? And so what they do is they try to slowly get closer and closer and closer to her like this. I'm talking figuratively here. So they're going on a date, they're being really nice and really kind, and they're doing all these things so she gets comfortable, so she learns to like him. And then after a few dates, or maybe they've hooked up a couple of times, they'll say, oh, by the way, I hope you know this is just casual. And then she runs away. Now, what's happening here is that guys are doing this not because they want to mislead or deceive, but because they think that, well, if I tell her before she's really interested in me, then she's not even interested in me and I'm not offering a long-term relationship. Of course she's going to run away. So I should wait a little bit of time. The other reason guys do this is just because, it's kind of intimidating. It's a point of potential rejection, right? To say you don't want a serious relationship. But actually, this is a huge mistake, because if you just have like regular dates, if you're going out on regular dates, having nice conversation, doing all this kind of stuff, you are essentially establishing a relationship. This is what you're doing from her perspective. You're acting as though you like her, like you're building rapport, you're connecting, you're sleeping together, that's fine. But without having a conversation about it, she's starting to think relationship thoughts about you. She's starting to consider you for something potentially long-term. And when you then randomly come out and say, oh, I just want something casual, what she feels is deceived, manipulated, and used. You didn't intend that, but essentially that is what has happened. You've let her believe a thing for so long that now she feels foolish and like she's been taken for granted. Anytime you create that feeling in a woman, she's going to run for certain as well. 9 times out of 10 anyway, she's going to run. So you need to avoid that. So the best time to be telling women that you just want something casual or that you don't want a long-term relationship is actually as early as possible. So if I'm meeting a woman online on online dating, most of the time I'm going to tell her on the app itself before I even go on a date, because I don't want to waste time. I don't want to go on a date with a woman who wants a long-term relationship when I don't. If I meet a woman in a bar or club or at a house party, I'm going to tell her then. At the time that I meet her, I'm going to tell her while we're talking, while we're flirting, while we're interacting, I'm going to make clear to her that I don't want a long-term relationship. That's not me. And that's the time I'm going to tell her. Why? Because first of all, I'm establishing what this relationship is going to be. I'm going to talk more on that in a minute, but it's really important that she knows how to think of you cognitively, right? What's happening here? What's the relationship that's being established? And that's super important that you let her start to create a structure around what you two are as early as possible. And that eliminates that recall effect. Now, a lot of guys are worried about it. And in fact, they'll often say to me, how on earth do you say that to a woman within 20 minutes of meeting her without scaring her off or without sounding sleazy or creepy? How do you get that across? And actually, it's not as hard as it sounds. So let me give you a template that I often give my clients, for what they'll say. So I might get the guys to say, you know what, I'm really enjoying being single right now because I get to be completely selfish and focus on my own personal development. You know, I don't want to be a partner to someone and just be that partner who's never around, who's being really mean or cruel and ignoring her. You know, I'm really loving that I don't need to worry about anyone else. And I get to discover who Damien is, you know, deep down inside. I'm digging that point in my life right now. Now, what I'm saying, what I'm making kind of clear is I don't want a relationship. I don't have time for a relationship, and I'm in the space where I can't be there for someone in a relationship. And I've also said I love being single. Now, when I express that, I'm not saying anything creepy or sleazy. I'm not saying something like, "Oh, by the way, just so you know, I'm only looking for sex." Heh, wink, wink. Right? I'm not having to go there because all I'm saying is I don't want a relationship. Now, at the same time I'm saying that, what has to be happening, again, it's all about context. What is the context here? Because if that's all you say, and the conversation itself is kind of mediocre to boring to like really standoffish, then it can look like you're just a friend. And that you do not want to be in the friend zone either. So what has to happen is that you need to be saying that while at the same time, the rest of that interaction, you're flirting with her. That means there's banter and teasing going on. Right? That means there's a little bit of innuendo, a little bit of definite flirting, definite like admiring her, appreciating her, you know, like saying something about what she's wearing. It doesn't have, and again, I'm not big on like compliment after compliment after compliment, but what I'm big on is making clear that you like her that way, like a guy likes a woman, right? That has to be clear in the interaction. And that's a thing that we can talk about in another video, but that has to be there at the same time because that contextual information tells her, oh, that's what this relationship is moving towards. This is what he's going for. He's clearly flirting with me, but he loves being single. Now she has a decision to make. And what you'll experience is, for me, when I'm talking to women in a bar or club and I say that, I just want to be single right now. When I have that conversation with them, I would get about 7 out of 10 women give me a positive response straight off the bat. So that doesn't mean 7 out of 10 women are definitely open to having casual sex. It just means that 7 out of 10 women hear that and they're like, hey, that's really cool. I really dig that. Go you. Good for you. You know, high five. I get that. So it's only about 3 out of 10 that are like, oh, and they start to lose interest rather quickly. And that's fine. I have just saved myself the effort of trying to flirt with a girl for ages who isn't interested in the thing that I am. But yeah, it's quite a high percentage who are okay with it. And then from those, you'll probably find out of the 10, so 7 out of 10 were okay with it, you'll probably find 3 or 4 are open to the idea of something casual in the meantime. So yeah, the numbers aren't too bad on this. And I found that doing this makes the other stuff easier, because I know a lot of guys are really worried about, how do I sexually escalate? How do I move from talking to a bar to making out to getting sexual? How do I do that? If you've established the context early on, in other words, I'm not looking for a relationship and I'm still flirting with you, that is a much easier context to go from there to something sexual than to go from, I think we're dating, I think we're establishing a long-term relationship, let's take our time and get to know each other better, becomes the vibe that you create. So then it becomes harder and takes longer to sexually escalate. And also it can easily be more awkward when you're trying to sexually escalate. So, because you're not both necessarily on the same page. So that's a simple answer to that question of how and when do you need to tell them. It's daunting for a lot of guys, but I promise you, if you start getting it out earlier, you'll be amazed how many women are okay with it. And then how much easier it's going to be to escalate from that point forwards. Now, if you guys are interested in doing any one-on-one coaching with me, I do offer it, one-on-one Zoom coaching to guys around the world, or your dating, online dating, relationship stuff, and your dark sexuality. Shadow work material, I do a lot of work with guys on at the moment. If you'd like to find out more, just click the link up here or down in the comments below. And of course, if you like this video, guys, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and if you liked it, I reckon you might just enjoy some of these other videos off to the side. Similar content, and of course, I like what I have to say, and hopefully you do too. As always, take care, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you guys in my future videos.